goal of this podcast is not to promote anything that I do, but more so to get stories of people who are going through stuff now and have just recently overcome challenges and struggles to teach others how to do it, because I think that's probably the best. I always say experience will trump education every step of the way when it comes to dieting, losing fat, losing weight, getting more healthy, exercising more, because you've gone through it recently. You're able to kind of talk about how you did it and people can apply it. Again, some of the things which I think is super important here as well, some things you say won't work for some people, will work for other people. Same as the way I coach. Some ways that I coach people won't like and won't take anything from it, and some people will. It's just like, again, styles of coaching. Same as like therapy. People like certain therapists, people don't like other. Same as in school. I'm sure in school there was people in school you're like, they're fucking bastards, but then you actually like other people. So it's kind of the balance of the world. So anything that we talk in here, and one thing I want to let you know in as well, Rachel, is no matter what advice you give, it's not wrong. And so don't be afraid of being like, oh, I can't say that, that's wrong, or whatever it might be. The advice that you give is advice that has worked for you and hopefully will help however many people end up watching or listening to the podcast at the same time. So I want to start off, as I said, social media can be quite fickle and don't really want to listen to people until they realise what they've achieved, with a couple of things that you've achieved over the last, let's say, year, or journey throughout getting into health and fitness and stuff like that. So let's hear it. A little bit of a story about Rachel.
So like I said, I'm Rachel. I'm from Tennessee in the good old US of A. And over the last year, I have lost 60 pounds, or I think that's about 27 kilos for our European viewers.
I think it's more than 27. I think, is it more? Well, actually, maybe it could be 27 kilos, but it's a crazy amount of weight to lose.
I've also definitely started to really value myself a lot more and started to have a lot more confidence, not only in my body, but in myself as a human being. And I also, beyond that, started going actually into the weight part of the gym, which was kind of hard for me to do. I think as a woman, we get very intimidated by the big scary gym bros. But that's been one of the most wonderful parts of my journey, has also been starting weightlifting.
Yeah, crazy. To watch the change in you from joining Mulligan's method to where you are now is absolutely mental, which is why I reached out to you and was like, fuck, I think a lot of people could do with hearing how you've achieved all these sorts of things, because 60 pounds of weight loss is, some people don't lose that over a period of their whole entire life, let alone within a year, which is absolutely crazy. And on top of that, not only that, I think pushing on with regards to your body confidence and getting to the gym and starting that side of things, overcoming all of these all at once is really, really difficult. So to see you do that, it's been like, holy shit, this person is absolutely flying it. And I think you have plenty of information and loads of things you can definitely share that have helped you get into it. So just to kind of go back to Rachel before she had taken part in anything or tried to change, what drove that change, but also describe a little bit about the position that you're in beforehand, because I think that's useful for maybe people that are in that position now and to just hear someone relate to them in some manner.
So I gained a ton of weight during graduate school. I think I gained 40 or 50 pounds during graduate school alone. It was the stress. It was the crazy hours. I was, doing full-time school and also working. And then it was also, I think, just on my part, not focusing on my health. And so during that time, my cholesterol shot up. I have cholesterol in the 99th percentile. My LDL is 230 something, which is outrageous. And my blood pressure was high. Just all of my lab values, like my A1C was elevated. And of course my, confidence in myself was at an all-time low. So didn't really want to be me.
Would you have blamed yourself for that back then?
Oh, definitely. I was like, everyone around me is doing fine. I'm the only one who's fat.
Yeah. I think that just for people that maybe might feel like they're in a similar position to that now and are going through, as you said, grad school is probably very fucking difficult. I don't know what the equivalent is over here in Ireland, but I can imagine it sounds like it's difficult. That sounds like I wouldn't make it through it. Let's put it that way. I think for a lot of people, like changing in routine, changing in habits, changing in lifestyle, like maybe for new parents who have kids, it would be similar. Like it's a whole new experience and you have a lot of things to juggle at the same time. Of course, health and fitness is probably going to get put to the back because it's not something that's immediate. It's not something that's going to impact you immediately. It's something that sneaks up on you. And so, first of all, I don't think it's necessarily your problem, or it's not something that is, I don't like saying not your blame, because I think we all have control and we all have choice in it, and whether you choose to do something or you choose to not do something, you're choosing at the end of the day. But I think part in that beating yourself up over it and getting caught up in that criticism doesn't help anybody. It just makes you not want to change. And had you ever, let's say through that period or maybe earlier on in your life, been negatively called out for your weight or commented on, or maybe felt quite bad about it?
Oh, definitely. I've had plenty of moments where I felt awful about my weight. I've had moments where you go dress shopping, you're looking for that dress that's going to make you feel beautiful for that function, that event, that wedding, and nothing fits. I went to buy a custom suit for an interview, and the guy at the Brooks Brothers store told me, "We don't have anything in your size. We could look in the men's."
Yeah, fuck.
I've had my grandpa ask me, "Hey kid, when are you gonna lose weight?" It's like, "Thanks, Rocky. I haven't seen you in 3 months." It's good to see you too.
And did any of those things help?
No, they made me feel awful. They made me want to run away from situations like those.
Yeah, I think that would be so good for people listening here as well. Is like, holy fuck, it's someone in my position and someone who has been targeted for their weight, and maybe I'm not just alone in this. This has happened to a couple of other people as well, and they've come through the other side of it. So I suppose going from that position where you were going through grad school, you started to gain a little bit of weight. What happened thereafter to the point where you started to change?
So, one of the other big things that's happened to me in the last year is that I filed for divorce. And I kind of realized in that moment that everything I was doing wasn't working. I mean, in multiple aspects of my life. And so it was just time to make a change. It was time to, in video game terms, reset my skill tree and put those points somewhere else because what I was doing just it wasn't working. And so that's part of it as well, I think, was, working through a lot of internal emotional stuff, starting therapy, starting just taking myself seriously and my life seriously, as opposed to focusing that energy on everything else.
How did you? So this is going to be a question. I know somebody listening is maybe going through a moment that's almost like a life altering moment for some people. Is a divorce or leaving a relationship that they've been in for a long time and getting to that point of change. Let's say. How did you make it through that?
I'd say the biggest thing was just having people I could count on. That I have my family close to me. I have friends that really checked on me and made sure I was okay. And I am immensely grateful to them for their help during that time.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they can feel like they don't have anybody. Like, the reason I'm asking this sort of stuff is because I think I haven't been through a divorce, but I think I've been through that life changing moment in my own life as well, where I really, really struggled with my mental health and just trying to think, like, how did I get out of that slump? And it sounds to me like that probably would have been a little bit of a slump moment. And same as you said here, I ended up relying on my family, my mum particularly, and friends as well when I had them around. But at times it felt like I had nobody. Did you ever come to that same feeling?
Of course. And I have a mood disorder on top of this, right? And so I do tend to get really in my feels. And I will say that, taking my health seriously kind of empowered me in a lot of ways it kind of showed me I could do hard things. Like I was
Yeah.
capable. And so even if I had had nobody else, I know that treating myself well it made a huge difference, frankly.
How did you start? This is always what I think back to as well, right? Because it comes back to, when you're in a slump and you're finding things difficult, and people listening to this probably will be at that point of like where things are really, really hard, and it's like, look, I'm watching podcasts or listening to things or watching my videos or I've seen stuff online to try and help me change, but I just can't seem to implement anything. I can't get out of this little bit of a slump that I'm in, and I remember that moment so many times in my life, but I can never pinpoint, right, what pushed me to change or what pushed me to actually get to the gym. Or for me, most recently was starting jiu-jitsu. I remember how I got to that position where I pushed myself. So for you, what made you be like, holy fuck, I actually need to start taking care of myself? And how did you do that? Like, that requires so much motivation and so much dedication and so much, almost like, I don't know, grit to actually do things. Because sometimes I can imagine in a situation like that where you've just gone through divorce and really, really struggled for quite a period of time, sometimes it can be even quite hard to get out of bed. So how would you, or what advice would you give to somebody that's maybe struggling with a similar position as to where you were?
I think in terms of getting started, just making the smallest change. That was really helpful for me. So I didn't start like full gas, going to the gym every day, doing all these other crazy things. Like I started by trying to reduce my calories a little bit. And I started by just tracking my calories, even not even trying to reduce them, just trying to see where we were. I started by just weighing myself every day. I think just doing the tiniest things can help you spiral. It's that, 1% better every day that
Yeah.
really adds up.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and I think for me it's probably quite similar. And I think back to it, like the first step that I took wasn't necessarily even going to a jiu-jitsu class. It was thinking about it, and that was like
Yeah.
enough of a step and starting to take a step forward. And even though people would be like, well, thinking about something isn't going to make you lose weight or isn't going to take a step forward, but it was that start of that thought process. And the same with regards to stepping on the scales. Obviously stepping on the scales isn't automatically just going to cause the scale to come down, but it's going to make you more aware. It's going to make you be like, okay, all right, well, now that's my first step. I'm just going to step on the scales every day for a week, and then I'm going to start adding in one piece of fruit here, or I'm going to start adding in a little bit of veg here. And people don't realize, right, those basic things are the most important. The shit that you're probably doing now with regards to tracking your calories, keeping the protein intake high and looking at certain numbers and stuff, that's not as important as the other like really low level stuff that you just started off with. And I think once you build in those habits, that's where you explode. So for you, what would be the basic habits that you keep up on a day-to-day basis to achieve the things that you have? Because I think that to go from obviously 60 pounds overweight, I've really, really struggled with health and fitness, to getting a start, to getting to the gym, and that, it all started with one action. And what are those actions that you started with?
Yeah, the very first things for me are weighing myself every day, drinking 1,000 milliliters of water, two of those a day, and trying to eat some kind of fruit instead of, you know, digging straight into whatever candy or whatever crap I have laying around.
Yeah, yeah, that's it's hard. It's hard to swap a box of candy for an apple sometimes, but sometimes it's worth it because you feel a lot better after. But that's another thing as well. I think one thing that you've gotten quite good at. So for anybody like that isn't in the Mulligan's method, don't know the way that works. Essentially, I do a check-in with everybody every single week. We look over everything. We look over all the stuff that people are doing. But I think one thing you've gotten extremely good at, and previously looking at over your check-ins and stuff, and even before coming on here, is not beating yourself up over things as much. I feel like at the beginning, I don't know why, like, because I went back obviously before I'd reached out to you, and I was going back and kind of looking at all the things that you've achieved, and there's a lot more that you've achieved than you've listed here at the beginning. I think you're talking yourself down a little bit. But I think one of the things that I did notice is that at the beginning you were quite good at beating yourself up over things and getting stressed out maybe over smaller things, but that seems to have passed now, and now you seem more okay with fucking things up. And I think more people that can get to that position, the better. So why does fucking things up help you, I suppose, and how have you gotten good at fucking things up?
Well, I was born good at fucking things up, but
Say that in the accent again.
I was born good at fucking things up.
Me.
But in terms of like the weight loss journey, I think that part of it is you're going to fuck stuff up, and B, you have to. So lean into it, because those are your learning opportunities. Those are the fuck arounds and find outs. And the more fucking around you do, the more finding out you do. And the more finding out you do, the more you figure out what learns for you, or like what works for you. And the more you figure out what works for you, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're right. Early on, I was like, Asheen, I like went over my calories this week by 40, and I'm gonna cry about it, and I think I'll just quit. And now I'm like, Asheen, I went over my calories by about 2,500, but it's fine because I'm not giving up. Like, I'm still here. And even though I keep fucking up, as long as you're trying, you'll make progress eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people get caught up in that aspect of like, oh, I fucked this up, I ruined everything, and then give up. But you don't actually realize that, right? You have two options when it comes to a fuck up, right? You either give up altogether, and then what you do is you confirm your fuck up. You click I accept. It's almost like, you know, when a menu screen comes up on your TV and it's been sitting on standby on Netflix for like 7 hours because all you've been doing is watching Netflix shows, and it comes up as like continue watching. And what you decide to do is no, turn it off. That's what happens when we hit a fuck up button. What you need to do is click the button that's bright white in front of you. Continue watching, continue going, continue, see what happens. Just get to the next day. And I think that's one part of the journey that a lot of people, when they get to the other side, forget that they've fucked up so much. And I think that's why a lot of personal trainers look back and believe that everybody should be perfect with their nutrition and nail XYZ, and they don't actually realize that at the start of their journey, where they didn't know a huge amount and they found things out, that happened as well. And matter of fact, continues to happen, but it's just fuck up at more things. Like now you're at the point where fucking up for you isn't not going to the gym or being afraid of the gym, or fucking up for you isn't really going over your calories. Fucking up for you might be going into the gym and failing at a 1 rep max or whatever. And then you don't give up. You're like, oh, well, what worked for me before is like, okay, I'm just going to repeat and see how I can do this better. Can I put in more training to put on more weights? Or can I, in the case of you going over your calories slightly, it's like, well, first of all, the positive is you're going to have more energy from eating more calories, which is energy. People believe calories equals fat straight away. It's not the case, so flipping that. But also the aspect of like, holy fuck, right, how did I go over? Maybe I didn't have my lunch. Maybe that's why I ended up overeating for dinner or after dinner, or had more desserts than I should have. And I think like that's useful. Or even it might be your food environment, being like, this time of year, coming up towards Christmas, there's just so many fucking sweets everywhere. It's hard to say no. The more times you say no, the harder it gets to say no to the next thing. And I think that that's where you become more forgiving of yourself. But also, I think this comes from a place of self-love more so, that you stop beating yourself up as much. So there's not this self-hatred like at the beginning where you've been maybe conditioned, and even there, as you said, like going to your grandparents, it probably would have been said to you, and people around you probably would have said it to you about your weight and this XYZ. It leads you to not liking yourself and hating yourself. And then what happens if you hate somebody? You probably criticize them quite a bit, so you're going to criticize yourself off the back of it. When you start to develop this self-love of, fuck, I can do this and I can lose 1 pound, and I have been able to deadlift or squat in the gym, it gets to that point where you're like, fuck, I actually start to love myself. I'm starting to like the things that I'm doing. As we talked about, you've started your Instagram with the videos, and I can see that starting to come through in the videos. That's why when I seen that, I was like, this is fucking class, because that's a sign that you're proud of yourself. And I think that that's huge. Not many people can ever feel like that, and a lot of people try and hide that. And I think feeling proud of yourself is super important, which is why I got you to list your wins as well at the beginning of a couple of things. Not super proud of yourself yet, because you didn't list them all, but we'll get on to the rest of them. But for you, what do you think the turning point has been, you to start turning towards that self-love rather than self-criticism? And is there any tools that maybe work for you with regards to that? And is there sometimes where maybe you wake up and you don't feel good?
Are there times I wake up and don't feel good? Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yes.
it's to some extent unpredictable. Like there are some days you wake up and you're like, today I am a vegetable. And I don't want to do anything. I don't want to like even look at myself. And that's okay. It'll pass. It does. Those are the days where you need to love yourself the most. Those are the
Yeah.
days where you're like, I know I'm a little sweet potato, but I'm my sweet potato. And we like sweet potatoes. So, um, what was the first part of your question?
Yeah, so when you're in the point, then, as you said, you like sometimes you wake up and you don't feel good or you don't feel great. What is the steps that you take to maybe bring yourself out of that over the next couple of days, or how do you start to change the tide, let's say?
So I would say that for me, I love to cook, but this you could apply this to anything. Whatever you love to do, even if you don't feel like doing it, just putting yourself in the first step of that thing. So like if I love to cook, so if I'm like not feeling myself, I might just get out the ingredients and just put them on the counter. And I'll tell myself like, you don't have to cook anything, but why don't we just check and see if we have the ingredients to make this? And I'd say most of the time, people are really susceptible to inertia. If you put yourself in that first step, if you get the crochet hooks out, or if you put on your shoes to go for a walk outside, if you just do the first step, and you don't have to commit, you're just gonna commit to that first thing, you'll end up doing the whole thing because you
Yeah.
like to do it. You just forgot you did for a minute.
I feel like I'm listening to the American version myself here. I'm like, fuck, that's exactly what I would say in that exact situation. It's like, I think so many people could do it here in that advice. And I think also what's important to realize as well in this. So first of all, the small little things, and how putting on your shoes even matters, or checking your ingredients if you like cooking, and how there's different aspects of, a lot of people will push self-love as when you're in the point where you really feel good, go to the gym and you'll feel better. Well, for everybody that doesn't work all the time. It's okay to do other things as well. Sometimes you won't feel like getting out and doing the walk, and sometimes you have to think, oh well, I know I won't feel like going out for the walk now, but I'll feel like going out for the walk once I have it done. I'll be like, oh, I'm glad that I did that. But it's important to have
Right.
loads of different avenues. Like again, you have your cooking, and some people here might have running, some people might have talking on the phone or going for a coffee or do XYZ. You should have like a shit ton of things that you can go and do, not just one. And not just because sometimes it's harder to do one thing than the other, but also time of year impacts things. So for example, going out for a walk now when it's darker outside, it's harder for a lot of people. It's like, okay, can we find something else to do that we can do in this period where it is darker? And it's building these habits and trying as much shit as possible. Like whenever somebody says to me, right, I don't like exercise, Ushin, or I don't like this, I'm like, you just haven't tried enough. Right? Someone comes to me and is like, Ushin, I don't like vegetables. I'm like, you're fucking lying to me. You just haven't tried as many vegetables as there is out there. Find one. Find a way of cooking them that tastes nicer. We've Rachel here. You can start messaging Rachel on Instagram asking her what way to cook what way to cook your carrots. Or the other advice that I'd give you, if you don't like vegetables at the ripe old age of over 20, if you're over 25, you don't like vegetables, grow up a little bit. Let's start getting them. I'm going to start
Yeah.
chatting.
At some point, that's a choice you chose for yourself. And, like, I
Exactly.
know, it must be hard to brush your teeth with bubblegum toothpaste every day.
But some people will
You
get
can do
caught in that
it.
cycle. Yeah. Or some people will get caught in that cycle of not liking vegetables. This is what the podcast has come down to. We're teaching people how to like vegetables properly. We'll get a cooking class going on the next one we do. But I think going back to going back to where you've come from and where you are now, right? And you're talking about now about how you still have days where you don't feel great. I think that's an important point to touch on, because a lot of people listen to this that are like, if I lose weight, that solves all of my emotional problems. That solves absolutely everything about me. That solves all of maybe the trauma that I've gone through in my life, and I feel a million times better. Just, I suppose, do you have any thoughts on that?
It's not going to solve all your problems, but it may help you feel better about yourself. And you feeling better about yourself may help you to start making progress on all those problems. Because you're going to have a hard time working through trauma when you don't love yourself. And if you do love yourself, or if you're proud of yourself, you're going to have more confidence to take on those other hard things in your life. So, no, weight loss is not going to fix your problems. Weight loss is not going to magically band aid your life, but the confidence that taking care of yourself has and adds to your life can help.
Yeah. I think that's a funny one. How I think of it in my head is like, it's almost like preparing yourself to go to war, right? Preparing yourself picking up a sword or putting on armor or doing whatever, putting on your war paint
Yeah.
isn't going to win you the war. What it is going to do is leave you prepared. It's going to leave you more susceptible. And it's not even weight loss that does that. I think people get caught up when they lose weight and being like, oh, I feel a million times better because I lost weight. I can tell you now, right? You probably feel a little bit better from losing 60 pounds because you're not going to be out of breath as much. You're going to be find it easier to go and do exercise, feel more confident in yourself. But this majority of this actually comes from tackling things that you said you would do, and then also pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. That's why you feel a lot more confident. That's why you feel a lot better. And there's situations where you maybe will start to fall back into a slump and not feel great about yourself despite having lost 60 pounds. And what do you do in that situation? Remind yourself of all the things that you've achieved, and also let's try and fucking achieve something else. Once you start to get stuck in that no man's land of like, fuck, I don't have anything else that I can do here, or like I haven't achieved anything in quite a while, that's why it's quite hard. Actually, in my head, I often think about this with rich people, right? You know, rich people that just fuck everything up. I don't know what, they have a shit ton of money and they piss it all away, they take a load of drugs,
Yep.
and they feel miserable. I think it's like, do you ever play Sims?
Yes.
Yeah, do you ever give in Sims? Do you ever give your? It's like, for anybody listening, it's like a video game where essentially you're playing as a human being. It's a most random video game ever, because you're literally making someone do jobs in a video game. So you're doing a job, and it doesn't make sense. Well, just do a normal job and get paid for it. But giving yourself all the money in a game of Sims, and you get to that point, and then it's boring. You just delete the game. You're like,
Right.
oh, fuck it, this is shit. Yeah. So I feel like that's what starts to happen with a lot of people, is to fall into this what an analogy, fall into this no man's land of having not achieved anything in quite a bit of time, not followed through on the things that they said they were going to do, and then ultimately feel like deleting the game, just be like, oh fuck it, this is useless, I can't do this, and feeling really shit about themselves. Saying delete the game in that sounded really dark. I didn't mean it in that way, but I think it's important to touch on is like, if you are find yourself in a really, really difficult situation, do something hard. And as you said earlier, that something hard could be something as simple as putting your shoes on, or thinking about putting your shoes on, or thinking about doing something. And I think that is something that a lot of people need to hear.
Yeah, and to go back to your war paint analogy, weight loss is not complicated, but it is hard. It's not simple. Sorry. It's not easy, but it is simple. And so when you're showing up to do something hard every day, you're teaching yourself that you can do hard things. And I think that's so important for human growth in all areas.
What's the hardest thing you've achieved over the last year, let's say, or a couple of years maybe? What's the hardest thing that you think you've achieved? It can be anything. It doesn't even have to be weight loss related. But I just think it's important. Maybe you can give people advice on it.
I would say leaving my ex-husband. And I'm okay saying that on this podcast. I am, because I do think that a lot of kind of fitness journeys start with a breakup. And maybe I'm just normalizing that experience if anybody else is going through it. Like, that's a time when a lot of people start to reevaluate other things in their lives and really look up. You know, maybe you've been putting so much energy on that relationship, especially at the end. And when you especially like, if it's a relationship that's not fulfilling to you, when you choose to end that, you're choosing the hard thing. And that is hard. That is difficult.
Yeah.
It's not the inertia. You're choosing the unknown. And so that's my answer to that is, you know, that like
Advice for someone who's in the same situation as you, Rachel. What would you say? Someone that's maybe stuck in a relationship and wants to get out at the moment. I know this isn't a relationship based podcast, but I think the same can apply to a lot of situations. And I agree with you. I 100% agree with what you're saying. I do think it is a change and turning point for a lot of people because they go to a dark point and realize that at the end of the day, you are with you 24 hours a day. Nobody else is
yeah.
with you 24 hours a day, not even your partner, and you have to look after yourself in that. But so many people get caught up in looking after somebody else over themselves. And when people realize, first of all, that you are with you 24 hours a day, and at the end of the day, in your own life, you're the only person that matters. But also, by taking care of you, you're taking care of everybody else. Because any of your family members, your mom, your dad, brothers, sisters, if you ask them one thing that they would like about you, and it's that you would stay around or be around for longer. And how can you give them that? By taking care of yourself. Giving them phones, laptops, cars, if you had €1,000,000 and giving them a fucking holiday. If they had to choose between that and having you around longer, they're always going to choose having you around longer. So maybe someone who is in that situation, what's your advice?
If you're a person who's in a relationship that's not fulfilling to you, I would encourage you to really evaluate if it's gonna get better. And if you've already been through that evaluation, you've decided it's probably not, don't draw it out. You're
Yeah.
just gonna hurt you, you're gonna hurt them. And if you've gone through that evaluation, decided it's not gonna get better, what are you waiting on? You've already thought it through. You know the answer.
I think I've said this on a podcast before. Someone talked about being a cockroach, and I was like, Jesus Christ, that's some way to explain to somebody. But you know the way cockroaches just don't die? Like, you try and kill them off. There's just, when I was living in Spain, there was about 500 of them in the apartment that I was staying in. Trying to kill them off, they just appear everywhere, and you're like, where the fuck are these even coming from, and how is there so many of them, and they just won't go away. But in life, I think the person who can be a cockroach through everything succeeds. It's like, fuck, if you can just be a cockroach through all of these difficult situations, hard situations, and don't disappear, just keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up. So be the cockroach in yourself and show up, because then if you do the hard thing and difficult thing and push on through, right, you're not suffering through the hard forever. Because if you stay in a relationship that you're unhappy with, or even a body that you're unhappy with, or a position regards to your life that you're unhappy with, and don't make decisions to change that, that is actually the hardest thing, because you're dealing with that hard every fucking day for the rest of your life. Meanwhile, the difficult thing up front might be tracking my calories. The difficult thing up front might be going for that 5 minute walk when you don't want to. But the difficult thing over the long run, if you don't do those things, is end up in hospital, finding things difficult. As you said, with a blood panel that you fucking are really at risk of loads of different things because of. But that, again, is something that people don't think about. People think about the short term. And short term, it's easier not to say that to my friend, family member, or husband, or boyfriend, that I want to get out of this, or I want to change. And I think that's where people can get lost. Anyways, mad tangent for a fat loss podcast, but I think it's going to be useful, because again, it goes to show where people can change from, and your story is important, because your story is going to relate to hundreds of others Rachels that are listening to this. Because I'm sure if you've listened to my videos, there's probably a Rachel not even so far away from you that's listening to this and being like, holy fuck, right, if she can do this, then I can do this in this way. So I suppose, going from that, is there any specific moments that you realised that you tackled hard things after and your confidence started to grow? If there's any particular ones that you can think of in your head of like, oh geez, this is a really difficult situation, or a story behind it.
I would say that some moments where I was really out of my comfort zone,
Yes.
traveling alone for the first time. If you haven't had that experience, I highly recommend it. I sort of recommend it. I think it's good for you, but it's probably going to be rough for a little bit.
How did it go? How did yours go? I'm eager to hear. What did you do and where did you go?
So I mean, mine was not crazy. I just had to go to California for a work trip, but I'd never been to California. I'd never flown alone, and like I'd never met any of these people in person before, and so it was all out of my comfort zone. And it's just showing yourself that you can, because now if I fly by myself or if I have to travel by myself, it's no problem. I'm an expert at it. But that first one is hard. So, but traveling alone, I think recreationally as well, can really show you that you're capable of taking care of yourself.
Yeah. I think
I've
everybody should
also,
do it.
yeah,
Even people who are in a relationship should travel alone. People who are in a partnership with somebody else, or even if you're fucking married, travel alone can show you so much about yourself. With regards that I'm able to handle myself, I can do these things, and I'm okay with being alone as well. I think that that's important, to have that aspect to your life, even outside of, like, using going back to the gym side of things, if you're constantly relying on someone to go to the gym and you get ultra reliant on them and they stop going, you're fucked because you've never gone by
Yeah.
yourself. You feel really, really unconfident, don't feel great. Meanwhile, if you develop the ability to go by yourself, you feel much stronger and much more confident yourself because you're tackling the hard thing, you're doing the difficult thing by yourself. You don't need anybody else. I think that that's one thing that traveling solo will give you. And I've done a considerable amount of that as well over the last year. Nowhere crazy as well. Like I've just literally traveled across to England or to other places, and I've done some of that alone. And I think that that's been the making of me as well. Like I was actually in the US for my work experience back in college. I went to North Carolina, I think.
Okay.
Crazy
Yeah.
place. Crazy fucking place. For people listening to this podcast, I was walking through one of the Walmarts and some fella had an AK-47 on his back and I was like, I'm going home. I'm not staying out here any longer. That place is fucking nuts. So I can only imagine where you're from in Tennessee is probably 100 times worse. But yeah, that scared the shit out of me. So I was like, I actually went home after that. I remember one story for everybody. I packed my bags in the middle of the night, threw all my clothes into my bag. I was staying in someone's house at the time and I was working out of a gym. I had to work at 5 a.m. Your work hours are fucking crazy and you get paid fuck all, at least when I was over there anyways. And so I threw everything into my luggage case. There was a window, tiny. The window was like, do you know one of the bathroom windows, like the really small top windows that are like, it's a small window. It doesn't really take something
Yeah.
to describe it, does it? Yeah. I had to squeeze my suitcase out that, literally like bend it in half, and I fell out the window. So like I crawled out the window to the point where like my back and my legs got stuck, and I was hanging out the window. Rang an Uber. This is like 3 o'clock in the morning. Rang an Uber to bring me to the airport. Then at the time, it was back when Trump was president a while ago. He had closed down all the airports or something. And then I was fucking stuck in the airport for like 3 days. It was the craziest journey ever, anyways. And that is the story of why I left America, because I seen some guy with an AK-47 on his back in the middle of thing, and it scared the shit out of me. I was like, I can't handle this. So yeah, that's my first travel alone story. But what did that show me? In the difficulty and the stress and then the anxiety that I had, I'll never forget that, my heart racing and stuff like that. I've showed myself I can get myself out of hard situations, difficult situations, and you've shown yourself the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think traveling alone's so important.
having that confidence in yourself to do that and is amazing. I think that that's probably why a lot of your confidence has come along. But anyways, I interrupted you there. Back to your other struggles. Let's hear them.
I'm trying to think of other like hard things.
First time in the gym, was that difficult for you?
Oh, definitely. Like, first off, it's physically difficult because you're out of shape. Or I was. So it's physically difficult because I'm out of shape. Like, I'm over here huffing and puffing, doing 2 miles an hour on the treadmill. But beyond that, it's very emotionally wrenching because you're going to the gym knowing that, like, you're sitting in the parking lot. I was sitting in the parking lot and I was like, do I really want to go in here that bad? Because there are like fit people in there. What if they say something to me, right? I'm not gonna fit in, pun intended. And that's hard. I think so scary for me was just going in the doors because I
Do you
didn't want
remember
to
your
be.
first day? Do you remember
Yeah,
your first day?
I
Describe
remember
it to
being.
us there. For people that are maybe feeling the exact same, I think it'll be important. Tell us the story.
Okay, yeah, my very first day at the gym. I remember parking in the parking lot. There's like nowhere in the parking lot to park. Super crowded, obviously, and I'm already like freaking out because I'm like, what are there gonna be like 400 people in this gym? And I'm in the car and I've got all my stuff, right? I was like, I've prepared. I've got headphones, got a water bottle, charged my phone up. I'm ready, right? There's nothing stopping me from going in here except me. Got my little shoes on. Like, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. So you have to go up to the door and you have to put in your pin code. And I'm like, all right, do I even know how to do this? And I get in there and I look around and all I see are people who are in better shape than me everywhere, all around me. And I remember immediately thinking, I regret this. Why did I come here? I'm not going to be able to get out of my head about that. But then I was like, well, those people weren't born looking like that. Like that guy who has deltoids bigger than my head, he didn't come out of his mama like that.
No, it wasn't me anyways. Definitely wasn't me with that.
And so, that's the kind of the thing I had to remind myself was like, everybody has to start somewhere. And if I want to be more like these people, which is my goal, I want to be in better shape, I'm in the right spot because they're here, right? If I want to be like them, I should kind of be doing what they're doing. You talk about a good comparison, right? That sometimes
Yeah.
comparison really brings us down, and sometimes comparison shows us what we're missing to achieve our goals.
I've never heard someone describe it like that, but that's genius. Yeah. Such a good way to put it.
And you know, so lean in. So I remember just, getting there. All I did was the treadmill that first day. I was like, I can do that, and I know how a treadmill works, and I came today.
And you
That
did.
was it.
You tick that off. And was the second day as hard?
The second day was a little better because I at least knew where the treadmills were. I didn't have to go look for them, and I at least knew that, like, nobody said anything to me the day before. Nobody was like, Rachel, you fat fuck, get off the treadmill, you're in the way. No, everybody was fine, and I was fine. So I went back. And then I went back again. Then I went back a whole bunch more times.
And now you're taking over the place. Now you're going to be there to teach other people that are first coming into the gym. This is the thing as well, which I love about people getting started, is there's going to be a point now where you see someone coming to the gym in the exact same position as you did, and you're going to be like, holy fuck, how can I help this person out, or how can I make them feel more comfortable? And that's why I love when people get started, because now you'll realize all of those people that you were looking at when you're in the gym who have the big deltoids or big arms, you're like, holy fuck, they actually think this way. They're like, how can I have this person now? Or you see someone walk into the gym for the first time and you're like, yes. Unless they're stealing your machine or your weights, then you're like, get out of here, you fucking cunt. But if it's anybody else, you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. You've started, like, kind of sick because you're seeing someone get started on a journey that you began. But yeah, cool. And I think that that's important for people to know as well, is that it does get easier. It becomes part of just your routine and starts to become something enjoyable because, fuck, I'm doing these difficult things and I'm doing something that not a lot of people can do. Not a lot of people can have the confidence or courage to get up and go into the gym. And that's what it is. Courage is how it starts. So feeling the feeling of fear and then doing it anyways. And then after that, that's when the confidence is built. When you start to cement and get over those feelings and you're like, okay, fuck, I feel good in here. But is there any day that you fucked up anything in the gym? Is there any funny stories from when you've been in the gym? Any that you can remember?
Let me think.
I landed you on this spot. As I said, I actually don't create a script, just for everybody listening to this. I actually don't create a script for these podcasts. I just, whatever questions I want to ask Rachel, I think are important for people listening, I ask. So if you don't like unscripted podcasts, fuck off somewhere else, please.
I can't think of any, like, major moments that I definitely screwed up, but I can definitely think of moments where, like, if the gym has a machine you don't know how to use, oh my lord, it's gonna be 15 minutes while I read the instructions on this. Like, my gym has a hip abductor, so the legs out, and also an adductor, legs in combo machine. That
It
took
looks
me
like you're
15 minutes.
I was going to say, and it's one of those machines where it looks like you're giving birth while you're using it. You're like, what the
Yeah.
fuck is this shit?
Yeah, and there's, like, instructions, and I'm, like, trying to read, like, okay, step 2, and then I realized, like, halfway through that, like, you had to lock the pads into place, and so I hadn't had them locked in. I'm, like, wobbling all over the place, and people are looking at me, and it's like, it's fine, don't worry about it. Mind your business, stay in your lane. So that, I mean, I think it's so normal to screw up, especially if you're
Yeah.
brand new. Like, if you've never been on, like, sports or gone to the gym before, you're gonna screw up. And honestly, the other people at the gym, the ones that I was so afraid of, that I was so intimidated by, have been absolutely nothing but helpful. Like,
Yeah.
if I've gone up to people and been like, "Hey, I see you doing the Bulgarian split squats, and you're not, like, falling over, which is how mine are going. Can you explain to me how you're doing that?" And everyone, like, people are just so willing to help.
Yeah.
Um,
I think most people that are in the gym have started off exactly where you are, so they know what that's like. I think the aspect of the machines, and when you're using machines wrong, what holds a lot of people back, and what held me back for years from going, because I always wanted to go, but I just never had the courage to do it, was being afraid that I'd look like a fucking idiot. And I talked about this last week, I think, on the call that we do within the Mulligan's Method, like we do a weekly call or so, and I talked about this, about everybody is a fucking idiot. Once you realise this, it becomes easier. So when you're in the gym, right, and you're so afraid that you fucked something up or you can't use the machine or you're reading the instructions, you start to get that sweaty palms, the heart's beating faster, and you're like, oh, I'm messing this up, I don't know what's going on. And if you think about the reason that you're feeling like that is in case someone else looks at you and thinks, Jesus, that one's the fucking idiot, she doesn't know what she's doing. But once you realise that everybody within the gym is the exact same and everybody is a fucking idiot, or an idiot as you would say in America, I think is the term, it becomes easier. Because if you think about it, what would you classify if you were to look at someone that's in your town, right, and you're like, that person, or you definitely, when I say fucking idiot, you definitely have a picture of someone in your head. I do. There's loads of fucking idiots in my town. What would you picture that person as? Someone that makes mistakes, someone that acts stupid, somebody that says silly things, or someone that does silly things, or someone that, I don't know, messes up. If you think about all of those check boxes, guarantee you've made a mistake in your life, guarantee you've messed up in your life, guarantee you've said silly things in your life, guarantee you've fucked up at some time. Then it's like, shit, I'm an idiot. And it's like, it doesn't really matter because everybody's going to take those boxes, and therefore, what you're afraid of. I think once you start to realize that, it's funny, and it's the same with the people in the gym. It's like every single one of them have fucked up a machine. At one point, even like I'm a personal trainer now for like 10 years, and still I go into the gym and I completely mess something up. And I just sit there, I'm like, Jesus, if only one of these people that's in the Mulligan's method could see what I just did right now, they would all probably just laugh straight in my face. But yeah, I think it's amazing. So people in your gym have been helping you out with exercises and stuff like that.
Yes, they're so helpful if I have questions or if I'm like, hey, can you spot me on this? I've had guys that like there's a guy at my gym, he's about 6'5", massive black guy, and he stepped in one time and he's like, I'm watching you, boo. And I was like, thanks. He's like, because I was doing a bench press and it was coming up like this.
We've
And
all had those moments.
oh yeah, and I was like, I didn't have a spotter, and so I was getting kind of nervous, but I got it up and I racked it, and he was like, I was watching you, good reps. If it had started to come down, like, I would have come got you. And I was like, thanks. And so we actually started talking. He's an old boxing coach.
Sick.
And so, like, you never know who's there, but I think that gym people tend to really look out for each other, even
Yeah.
if it's quiet.
Yeah, I think that happens because a lot of people that start the gym, if you think about, like, what is the purpose of people going to the gym? Improve the way that their body looks. For the majority of people are like, oh, I want to go for a change. I think some people, obviously, over time, I think most people start for the reason of changing the way their body looks and then continue for the reason of feeling better and feeling good about themselves and feeling stronger. But if you think about
Yeah.
that, those people within the gym have obviously started because they were unconfident in themselves, didn't feel great, or their self-worth is probably a little bit lower, and they use the gym to try and build that back up, so they know what that position feels like. When you
Yeah.
know what that position feels like and you've been there, you can be empathetic with it, and it becomes almost like a community or a family, which is why I'd recommend anybody that's in a position where they don't have friends and family. Remember we spoke about before, just earlier on, where you're talking about the divorce and that you used your friends and family to talk and get through that. For anybody that doesn't have that, create that. How do you create that? Do shit like going to the gym, going to a new boxing club or a jiu-jitsu club or whatever it is in your area. Yes, it might be hard to step in the door, but I can promise you, you'll make some of the best friends that you've ever had in your life there, because they're people that have experienced similar shit to what you have or gone through a tough time, and they use that now, or a gym, as a bit of an outlet for that. One of the best places to speak about mental health, especially for lads, is within the gym. Reason being is because most people who are in the gym struggle with their mental health from time to time. Why do they use the gym? To try and feel better about that. And I think that that's where you can feel like part of a family. It's why cults have been such a massive thing in America. Shout out to all the American cults here, because people like feeling part of a community. So if you can create part of a community, people will jump on board and get on board with it, and that's where the fucking cults come from. Shout out to any cults in Tennessee. I don't know if there is any, but I've seen plenty of Netflix documentaries, so I wouldn't be surprised if there is. But it's like over here in Ireland, the Catholic Church for years, won't comment on the negative things that they've done, but the reason that they were so big over here is because you felt part of a family or community. And that's like almost going to the gym is like my mass every single week, every single day, to reflect and get that moment for myself and work on myself. Years ago it would have been going to the church for people and feeling part of that, and I think that that's community is such an important part of it, and to make it a positive one. And you have control of the people that you surround yourself with, and to surround yourself with people who are working on themselves is super important. Did you ever hear that quote? It's like show me your 5 friends and I'll show you who you are. I don't know what that quote is. My brain. Yeah, my brain comes out with random things. But yeah, so within your lifting career so far, what are your personal bests, or what lifts have you enjoyed the most as well?
So I just switched to using your 5-day in gym program. I had been doing the intermediate one. And right now I'm trying to focus on the Olympic lifts. I find that those are, those kind of free weight ones.
Yeah.
I
So
think
bench press, squat, deadlift?
yes.
Okay, sick.
And so right now I feel like I can't do anything. Like I feel like I'm not lifting very much. I just
I seen a good squat from you. You put up a squat video on your Instagram. Was it 40 kilos more?
it's 170 pounds, however many kilos that may be.
Fuck, yeah, that's a lot. I don't know exactly the number. Is it 60? I don't know. My maths is you're asking the wrong person. I failed maths multiple times. I failed maths in college too.
I'm not 100% sure either.
But it's good going, really good.
Yeah, I wanted to squat my body weight, and that finally happened. So now I want to try and deadlift 200 pounds, which that would be 90 something kilos, and just deadlifted for the first time yesterday in over 4 years.
Class.
deadlift form is so hard. So right now, I like all I
Yeah.
was doing was like 105 pounds, so not even like barely halfway of my goal. And because I was like, I just need to focus on form, and trying to set up the video and like video myself kind of discreetly so I don't look silly, like videoing myself in the gym only
Yeah, it's
deadlifting
hard.
100 pounds. And then for bench press, right now I'm also at about 105, 110 pounds, which
That's good going. Very good.
it's good going. I have to remind myself that I started just doing the bar, just doing 45 pounds. And so
Yeah.
I've doubled
I,
that.
I think that that's where sometimes it's easy in that comparison is to compare upwards again of like, oh, all these people are lifting X amount of weight, or Instagram will often show you people when, especially when you're getting into lifting and you're trying to improve your technique and stuff, you'll tend to watch more videos on it. So with that, you'll be pushed out more videos of more people doing squats and deadlifts, and it can make you feel inadequate at yours. Or maybe people listening to this when they're hearing 170 pounds might sound really intimidated. Rachel started with 0 pounds, started with the 45 pound bar then and built up
Hmm.
to that, started with the treadmill as you talked about when you first went into the gym. I think that's always important to realize as well, is if you could go back and have a conversation with Rachel that was walking on that treadmill in the gym that day, she was really afraid, to go over to him and be like, give it 2 months and wait until you see what you're lifting. Give it 3 months and wait until you see me squatting over it. Give it 6 months and wait until you see I'll have 170 pounds in that motherfucking bar and I'll be lifting up and down. You'll be one badass motherfucker. I can guarantee you would make that version of Rachel so excited and proud of where you are now, and constantly going back to that is important. One thing I actually find useful, I often have a screenshot as my on my phone as a baby picture of myself, and I often just have conversation with it, and I'm just like, fuck, if I could go back and tell you these things, it'd be kind of cool. So sometimes relay that back to yourself, but in that, I suppose with the lifts and smashing them out of the park, as you said, like you started off at 0, you're now at 170 pounds, which is absolutely crazy. The deadlift is probably one of the scariest lifts for most people. It's one of the most beneficial. It's one of the most difficult lifts to obviously get correct form wise, but how you get good at doing exercises by doing them. As you said, you're doing exercises, you're videoing yourself, and you're probably looking at videos and you're like, oh, I'm doing that wrong. Doing that wrong is important to do it right? And you're not going to injure yourself as long as you're using lighter weights and you're slowly building it up. You're not going to injure yourself. Form doesn't correlate with injury whatsoever. Technique doesn't correlate really with injury. What does is load. So using too much weight in comparison to what our body is used to. So I think if you can keep control of that, you will be 100% fine, and you'll smash it out of the park. It'll be class to see you hit your goal of 200 pounds. When you do that, we'll get you back on board here. You'll have to video it and send it to us as well. And any, as per usual, like within obviously the Mulligans method, message me across any videos you have of your deadlift if you want me to go through them. And as I said, I'll send you back a video breaking them down. But I think it is good to have that reinforcement and reassurance as well, because I questioned myself for years. Oh, am I doing that right? Am I not doing that right? So being able to video yourself and ask people questions about it is super important. So utilize that where you can. But if you were to say to someone maybe starting the gym tomorrow, what would you tell them to do? Or someone that wants to start the gym but what is a little bit afraid, what is the step-by-step thing that you would get them to do?
Step one, make yourself a playlist. I feel like music is such an important motivator at the gym, and do not go in there just listening to the gym music or heaven forbid nothing at all. Like, you don't need to raw dog this. The gym is hard enough. Love yourself enough to have a playlist. So that would be like that's like a weird one to throw out as a first step, but I'd say
Great
first
one though.
step, pick some good music. Second step, drive to the gym. Just go there. Maybe just go there and ask the person at the kiosk to give you a tour of the gym. I don't know if people know you can do that, but they'll show you where all the machines are and show you like this is our weight area, and they'll explain it all to you. If you've never been in a gym before, it can be that was one of the first things I did was I just asked the person like, can you just show me where stuff is? And for me, just getting on the treadmill was the least intimidating, but whatever doesn't intimidate you, I'd say start there. Do that little thing. Maybe just go grab some dumbbells and do whatever. Just shoulder press them or bicep curl them or just whatever. You can say I went to the gym and I lifted something, because that's going to be that starting that ball rolling to get you to want to go back. So for me, it was the treadmill, but it could be anything. You could, I mean, if
Yeah.
you're hardcore, you could just start on the Stairmaster.
Just raw dog it as you
Oh,
said.
yeah, Stairmaster, no music. Talk about being a
Yeah.
cockroach.
That is torturous. People that do that have a mental disorder. That's fucking crazy. That shit.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you think the strongest guys in this gym are the dudes deadlifting 700 pounds? No. No, it's that lady in the yoga pants on the Stairmaster with no
Yeah.
headphones, watching
Not get
watching American news on the TV.
counting. Do you know the way it says stairs climbed? Just counting those every time. Fuck, I can't imagine anything more torturous than doing some bullshit like that. No, thank you. Make it enjoyable. Perfect. I think, as you said there, perfectly. I couldn't give any better advice than what you just said there. Again, it's starting treadmill, starting what you're comfortable with. Build a program that you enjoy. Build a playlist that you enjoy, and make it fun. Because if it's enjoyable and fun, and you're doing exercises that you enjoy, you'll keep it up over long run. Sometimes when you get more advanced, you have to do shittier exercises to improve. Like obviously the Bulgarian split squats, nobody likes them. We do them for the sake of improving our strength because it's absolutely huge for that. But yeah, I think perfect advice. Now, if I was to go the exact same question to you, and this will be one of the last questions I throw your way, so don't worry, I won't wreck your head for too much longer. But with weight loss, so obviously it's 60 pounds down. I think it's over that, Rachel. A little bit over that, no?
Right at maybe slightly under, depending on the day.
Okay, so let's say 60 pounds down. What would you do with somebody that's starting and they want to lose 60 pounds? What is the step-by-step thing that you would follow? If you were to go back and tell Rachel, just do this to lose weight, to get the weight off, what would you start with and what would it look like?
So, if you want to lose 60 pounds, the best thing you can do is lose 1 pound. I remember starting and being so intimidating and hating myself, wondering, like, God, how did I let my weight get this out of control? Now I have to lose 60 pounds. Whereas, if I had stopped myself earlier, I would have only had to lose 30 pounds. And this is going to take me over a year to do this now because of where I'm starting. But if you don't start now, if you say one day instead of making today day one, it's only going to get worse. So just lose 1 pound. Just focus on like making it into smaller little bite-sized chunks. And we talked about this earlier in the podcast, but for me, one of the first things that I did was just weighing myself daily because I had avoided scales for years. Like, you only get on them at the doctor's office because they kind of hold you at gunpoint.
They're fucking bastards, though. A lot.
So no,
Doctors are
like,
good, don't get me wrong, but some of
they're
them
like,
just rely on way too much.
and just getting a baseline for yourself. Maybe take some before pictures. I wish I had better before pictures from when I was at my heaviest. I really do. And, it'd be great to look back on those now and not have the only pictures of me to have as before pictures to be, pictures of other people took where you're squished in the side of the picture because you didn't really want to be in the picture, so you're like over here.
Yeah.
And yeah, just focus on the first 5 pounds. Focus on the first 2 pounds. Whatever
Yeah.
it is.
I think that's unbelievable advice. And one thing that you said there that's super important is when you got to the point where you need to lose weight, you're like, when you had 60 pounds to lose, you're like, oh, well, only if I stopped myself earlier, I could have had 30 pounds to lose. And having that hindsight is important, right? Because this is something that I want to share with most people. Most people, when it comes to starting something, are like, oh, I'm going to wait for the perfect time, or I'll wait till January, or I'll wait till... I don't necessarily think right now is a good time for weight loss. The environment is a little bit more difficult, but I do think now is a good time to take care of your health, as in you can get out, get walks in, go to the gym, start things. If you constantly push off the starting point, you're going to get to a point where you look back and you wish you had started, because it's going to be difficult then. You're going to look back, because people think, oh, if I don't change, it just stays the same. I'll tackle this in a week. I'll tackle this in a month. I'll tackle this in 2 months. Then it's like, in 2 months' time, right, you're going to go and start, and then you're going to have to undo what you've just done over the previous 2 months. So actually, the best time to start is right now, because you're in the best possible position you're going to be. It only gets worse from here. And I think a lot of people don't actually realize that, is that the direction that you're heading, specifically if you're constantly gaining weight, is worse. So what is the best step that you can take is taking action and doing something now, because doing something now is better than trying to undo everything that you didn't do now in 2 months' time. And I think that that's where most people get caught up, and it's like, oh, I'll start when the time is perfect. There's no fucking perfect time. You're always going to have something on. You're always going to have something starting next week. The thing is, no matter what it is that you have on, is going to be on for the rest of your life. You're going to have weddings. You're going to have times that you have to go places with your friends or travel for work. So what is the best thing to do? Learn how to deal with those by starting now and practicing now, so that next year, when that sort of shit happens again, that you're better at dealing with. You know how to deal and go through Christmas without feeling really stressed around food. And I think that learning is something that people are really afraid of, and hence why most people don't get started. But that perspective that you just shared there of being at the 60 pound mark where you have to lose 60 pounds and then looking back and being like, why didn't I just start when I'd gained 30? That's what I want a lot of people to avoid, but just most people don't have a foresight to be able to see that far of like, fuck, if I don't start now, then I'm just having to undo all of that progress from there. But just to go, I don't know if you have any points to add to that, if you remember that feeling, maybe not. So
I'm not sure
if
what
we were
the
to go,
question was.
yeah, there wasn't one. Sometimes I do that. But going back to that, what would a day in the life look like of, so for someone maybe looking to get ideas of what things to do to lose weight or how to lose weight or whatever it might be, because they're probably the most often asked questions, is what would a day in a life look like for you while you're trying to lose weight?
So
Food, exercise, what is it that you do? How do we do it?
yeah,
Start from the beginning.
from the beginning. Okay, a day in my
Yes.
life. So I try and get at least 7 hours of sleep. That's such an important part of weight loss that people often neglect. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're setting yourself up for failure. So get that sleep in. First thing I do, I go to the restroom and then I weigh myself. So I like to do that first thing in the morning before I chug 15 pounds of water through the day. I start my day with a cup of coffee and water. I'm not a breakfast person. It messes me up all mornings and I'm like sleeping all morning and I just got up. I don't need to be sleeping. So I don't usually have a big breakfast. I might have a piece of fruit. And for lunch, I try and get a high protein lunch, especially if I know I'm going to go to the gym later, because I want something that's going to keep me full until then. So some of my lunch favorites might be Aldi has little bags of beef jerky, or if I have leftovers from the night before, or if I'm out and can't get something at the house, I might get, even like a Chipotle bowl or something like that. Try and get something that has protein in it and water. I usually have drank one of these by lunchtime. And then usually I'll go to the gym before dinner because otherwise I feel sick to my stomach. But so I'll go to the gym if I'm going to go to the gym. I like to start with just like a 10-minute warm up on the treadmill. Might like walk some, do a little bit of jogging. I'll do my weightlifting stuff as prescribed by you, even if it includes split squats. And then I'll come
You're
home
allowed to
and,
give me the fingers with that.
but yeah, I considered it. But I told everybody, I was like, I'm going to get on here and give him hell today.
Yeah, tell him
Anyway.
to fuck off.
And then after that, I'll come home and pretty much like make dinner straight away. My favorite recipe right now is the chicken lettuce wraps. I think they're Cathal's chicken lettuce wraps.
I know
My
the ones
man,
you're on about, their class. Yeah.
so good, and they're like not super expensive, which I love. And almost always I have enough to use as leftovers or to split with like. So I roped my little brother into working out with me, and so usually he'll come over and eat about half of my lettuce wraps at night.
Typically, people have those lettuce wraps to avoid having carbohydrates. So I think that's a good point as well. Is like, fuck, you're not doing that for the sake, you're doing it because you fucking enjoy them. The carbohydrates part doesn't even really pop into your brain anymore because that kind of negative relationship with food is removed. So I think that's fucking brilliant. Like, you're already the layout of food is class.
Yeah, I don't specifically limit anything. And there are days where I'm gonna have 600 calories worth of boba tea today, and I'm just gonna work with that. And that's a choice I made, and that's okay. Like that's a choice I made. So I
Yeah,
don't specifically avoid anything, and that works really well for me because otherwise I tend to like restrict and then binge or
yeah.
feel really limited. So I've tried low carb stuff with like extremely low carbs and it just wasn't sustainable for me. Whereas like eating what I want, 600 calories of boba tea or not, and just keeping track of it has worked the best for me.
And the Chipotle, I'm fucking jealous that you have that. That's unbelievable. I remember having it when I was over in America, and it was when I was over there, right? When I was in North Carolina, I think I tried every possible food place. So when I was in the airport, I lived at Shake, so I created a house in the airport because I wasn't allowed to travel because they shut down the thing. So I created my house in like an angled seat, like an L-shaped seat at Shake Shack, and I just slept there, and I woke up, and I'd eat there, and I'd sleep there, and I'd wake up, and then I travelled. So yeah, I've tried every fast food place over in America, and they're fucking class, which is probably to the detriment of your country, but absolutely unbelievable
Yeah.
for people who are travelling there. But this is the thing as well, as you spoke about there. You have Chipotle, you incorporate this sort of stuff. It's okay if you're on the go and you can't necessarily get the time to cook meals. You fit your lifestyle in around that, and that's called not waiting for the perfect time doing what you can when you can right now and doing something rather than nothing at all. And as you said, sometimes you're going to have the boba tea, and do you know what? There are memories that you'll think back to in 10 to 20 years. You'll be like, fucking, I'm delighted I had that boba tea. And that's something that I really, really enjoyed. And that was a massive part of my life, and it was fucking class. So it's important that you kind of enjoy that as well, because I think a lot of people get caught up in losing weight and keeping weight off and just that being the only focus. And I describe this as, how I use it is the analogy of like an ice cream cone, right? Because I fucking love ice cream. And that's how I ended up at 130 kilos, because I used to just eat tubs and tubs and tubs of ice cream. Like, do you know the large tubs that you'd buy in like a supermarket? Big massive ones. I used to mill at least 2 of those easily. No, I wouldn't say 2 of those a day. Let's say 1 of those some days, 2 of those other days, but pretty much have 1 of those every day. Slash, like, I'm lactose intolerant now, so I can't even have 1. But an ice cream cone, I describe that analogy like an ice cream cone. Most people focus on just the cone, right? And the cone, let's say, is your body represents that, your body shape, whatever it might be, or your weight and your scales. And the ice cream is the memories and stuff in your life. And if I was to ask you what melts faster, the ice cream melts faster. The cone is going to be left there. And nobody goes to an ice cream shop and asks them just for a cone, because the cone by itself is shit. Someone goes into the ice cream shop and asks for just ice cream. It's okay. If you're just to live your life without looking after your body, it's alright. But I mean, the best way to have an ice cream is an ice cream cone. One where you balance looking after your body and taking care of things, but you don't allow the cone to take away from the ice cream, which is, again, your life and living and having experience and enjoying foods and nice foods and foods that are boba tea. Essentially, to have the boba tea and fuck what anybody else thinks is important. It doesn't matter how much, like, if you're 60 pounds and you are miserable as fuck, there's no point in being there. It's not enjoyable. I think that's an important thing for people to realise. And again, an absolutely brilliant layout of day. And for some people, the layout of the day won't work for them. Maybe they might need breakfast, or maybe they don't want breakfast as well, and they'll follow along with regards to what you're doing. But is there any supplements or anything that you take? Because a lot of people would ask me, like, Hushin, is there a fat loss supplement or anything there, or anything special? So yeah, with your evening routine, is there any supplements, or after your dinner do you just go straight to bed, or what is the story there?
So I'm actually a pharmacist, and so people ask me this question all the time too. And the only supplement that I take is creatine, and I didn't start taking it until way later in my journey. I don't think it's a must-have, but it was just something I started taking because I read some research on it. Mike Israetel recommended it,
Yes,
so he's great, total class.
he's
But
funny.
no, yeah, that's the only thing I take, which is fine with me. And then, yeah, the end of my day, I pretty much just watch some anime or hang out on the couch and go to bed.
Sick. Yeah, and I think that's important. Rest and recovery is probably one of the most important parts of training. If you're not resting and recovering, you're not. And rest and recovery isn't just, again, getting into bed and go to sleep. It's enjoying your fucking life. The more
Yeah.
we can reduce that cortisol and feel better. And stress is one of the leading causes of what is it, all cause mortality. Or it's one of the leading causes anyways of pretty much every negative health outcome on planet Earth is from too much stress. So to be able to sit back, relax, not allow the gym to take over your life, and enjoy it, I think is important. Creatine as well, perfect supplement. Loads of research on it. As I said, you've seen it. There's a website that people can use just in case someone's listening to this, examine.com. If you type in the supplement into that, it'll actually list out all the research for it. But there's no supplements I'd really recommend if you're living in Ireland and there's no sun, vitamin D. But if you're in America and you're lucky to have the sun, cowboys, and all the best takeaway restaurants, well then creatine should suffice for you guys. You're okay. Don't worry too much about it. But yes, any final thoughts for anybody before we go? Rachel, anything that you came on the podcast and you're like, fuck it, this is one thing I wanted to share, one message I want to get out to maybe other Rachels in the world.
Just remember that you're the only person who lives with you. Or as I like to tell other people, like, as wild as you may think I am, I want you to remember I live in here. And so, you're gonna live in there with yourself for a long time, hopefully. So,
Yeah.
lean in, take care of yourself.
I think it's important. I think it's super important. And that's where that not giving a fuck about other people's opinions or other people's takes on who you are or judging you or judgment. Because as I say this all the time as well, you're going to get judgment whether you go to the gym or you don't go to the gym. You don't go to the gym, you're a fat, lazy piece of shit, according to some people. I don't think so. Some people will say that. If you do go to the gym, you look like a fucking idiot on a treadmill, you do exercise. If you don't eat breakfast, people have a judgment. If you do eat breakfast, people have a judgment. Everybody, what is that saying? Everybody has arseholes, like everybody has an opinion. Don't go around showing it to everybody is the only thing. But yes, we'll finish on that. But again, Rachel, I think your journey is really, really inspiring. Again, 60 pounds of weight loss is absolutely unbelievable. And obviously getting to the gym, lifting weights, and there's plenty more there as well. Obviously, clothes fitting you better and everything else. But I think the most important thing is the difference in you confidence wise. Even the ability to jump on here and have a podcast and talk to a random stranger on the internet is amazing. And again, it takes a lot of balls. I wasn't able to jump on camera for Jesus Christ, I think it was like 2 years on my coaching page. I wasn't able to even post a video of myself. I hated it, and so I used to just do voiceover. So well done on that. And if that doesn't shine through the confidence that you've built over the last little while, nothing well. So I just want to say a massive well done and a thank you, right, from not only me but also all of the other Rachels that are going to watch this and take something from it. And I say the other Rachels because I can guarantee you there's at least 20 people that are in the exact same situation that you were in previously, looking for a way out or looking for maybe that little bit of hope that it is possible to change or turn around. And it might be even you in the future looking back at a podcast like this and being like, I was in a good place, how did I do that? Maybe these are the advice that I give myself. So I think that that's super important. And it's hard speaking out about things that you've done and sharing that advice and sharing that information, especially when you're in a position where you haven't gone through college for nutrition and stuff like that. Can be fearful because you can be like, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing. There's no wrong thing. It's your journey, the things that you've done. So yeah,